Welcome to this demo of the tool Traceability Studio. So this is the connection screen where you can establish the database you want to connect to, or you just connect directly to the active database, as I'm doing now. So this is the main screen. There could be, you can, from here you can manage different projects. I have only two projects available in this database. One is the temperature war, the other one is a railway project. The one which is the default one is the temperature war in here. So, but in any case, all the projects that you manage in this database could be eventually sharing the same number of connectors. So from here I can establish different connectors to different documents. It is very easy to create new connectors, and we can connect different tools in the market. So let me start from here. You just right click and add a new connection. You can add the connectors to tools like IBM DOS, DOS Next Generation, PTC, Rectify, Microsoft Excel, RecIF files. We can parse different types of XML files, or even we can parse non-structured documents. So there are other connectors that are not shown here. Normally, the icons that are shown here depends on the client tools that you have installed in your computer. But if I had installed also visual requirements or other tools, then more icons will appear here. So if I click here just to add a new connector to a DOS repository, the only thing I have to provide is the name of my connector, system requirements in DOS, for instance. So this is the name just to identify this connector in the tool. It doesn't have to be a physical or a real name, because the name of the project is what you will be selecting here. So you provide your credentials for this repository. The server, I will choose now localhost, then you just refresh, and you pick whatever project you want to connect to, right? So this is normally the way. I already have a connector to a DOS project, so I will not create this connector. Connecting Excel is also very easy. By the way, for those of you who already know our tool RQA or RIT, the connectors that are managed by Traceability Studio are the same connectors that you can manage with RQA, right? And the way to connect is exactly the same. So you just from here you just establish or select what is the folder you want to connect to. So I want to connect to this folder. And then from here, you pick one of the documents where you have your requirements or risks or whatever. In this case, I will connect to a document containing risks. And as the idea is just to map the existing number of columns with the attributes you want to connect to, right? This icon represents that this document has been already connected, so I could better show you this one, which is not yet connected. You can notice that the icon is a little bit grayed out, so I will create a connection for this one. So then this wizard allows you to map the different columns. In this, I have used one of our templates that is available in our website, by the way, and then the names are well recognized automatically. But if not, you just have to click on the magnify and select the column that you want to pick for the different mandatory attributes, like mainly the ID, short name, long name, the author, creation date, and last modification date. These 6 are the minimum attributes that each element that you connect to in our tools are required. So once I have mapped the columns to the different attributes, I click on next. Some additional attributes. I don't need any additional attribute. Then, in case you also want to enable this for RQA, that you can establish quality columns, not for this moment. And then if you want any additional attribute, then you can pick and say, okay, you need the type or whatever. Then when you are done, this table, this workbook includes a number of different worksheets. All these worksheets are having the same structure, so all these are enabled. And I have an additional worksheet, which is the scoreboard. So this scoreboard is not following the same structure as the other. So by doing this, then you are done, and the connector is done. It's very straightforward. As I mentioned, I already have a connector to my stakeholder requirements already created, so I will not create it. But if in case you want to create it, just provide a name and then click OK. I will do cancel. And finally, I don't want to spend more time on this, but let me just show you the last way of connecting, in this case, non-structured documents. So we have, aside from all the connectors that I have already presented, that we can connect to Capella models. By the way, I have a Capella model in this example, Magic Draw, Cameo, Enterprise Architect, Ontologies on OWL, Simulink modules, Rhapsody, and some others, right? I will connect to a Word document, so I click on Unstructured in here. And now in the last configuration tab, I select my document. The document is a plain Word document with one kind of special section, including goals. So if I go down, so this is a regular document, nothing special. No need of dealing with the styles if you don't want, and just the only issue or the only special topic is that I have this section with goals where each of these paragraphs starts with the text goal dash and then a number colon and then my goal, right? So let me show you different ways to parse these kind of documents. The first one is by clicking here, Parsing Options, where you can parse by using either patterns. For those of you who already know the way we deal with patterns, then you can pick a particular pattern or pattern group that so that all the paragraphs in this document matching or fitting into this pattern will be eligible as traceable items. Or you can also deal with regular expressions. You just provide your regular expression here, and all the paragraphs matching with this regular expression will be selected as eligible items for traceability. The last option is to scroll down and click on filtering. This is a kind of custom code filter. All these filters will be stored in your database. In this case, I have this one that just with 10 or 20 lines of code are enough as to just to parse the different paragraphs in the document, and for those that are matching with this regular expression, then the main difference between this and the previous option is that I have more control on what I'm doing here. I can control by sections, I can control and extract some additional attributes if needed, so I prefer this option. If you are interested in this code, of course this code is available for you as well, so that you can replace this regular expression to catch exactly what you want, right? So by selecting this, then this will be my parsing mechanism, right? And then I already have a document parsed in this way, but so I will not create it, but for you just remember to provide a name and click OK. I will click cancel. So all these are my connectors. I have connectors to this is my Word document, this is DOS Next Generation module, these are some test cases in Excel, several modules in DOS, so let me select all of them and connect to all of them. When I connect for the first time, you will be prompted to introduce the password, the credentials, the user password. So this is for my DOS, for my DOS document. several those former modules within this project. Now this is for those next generation one. Okay, so now all my modules are connected, right? Let me just move forward a little bit and show you the traceability modules. So despite the fact that I have connected 9 different documents, however, I can establish any number of link modules along all these connected work products, right? So in here I have 11 different documents, because the same document could be traced upward to another document and downward to a different document, right? So for instance, the stakeholder requirements are connected upwards to the goals and downwards to the system requirements or other acceptance tests or whatever, right? So these are all my different connectors. Creating a new connection is very straightforward as well. So I just add a traceability module. You must give a name to this module. My traceability module. There could be different types of traces managed by the tool. So from here you can just pick derive, or you can or verifies or validates or whatever. You can pick more than one if needed, and you can also create your own types of traces, right? So in this case I just click on derives, but you can select more if needed. And then of course the second step is to pick the documents that you want to connect to. All these documents are sorted or grouped by the connector, and all these are the connectors that I have connected before. In the case of doors, for instance, I connected to a project containing 6 different formal modules, so I can pick one of these 6 formal modules, right? So now I just go and say what documents I want to connect to each other, right? So suppose that I want to connect, I don't know, my system requirements in here as the source system requirements, and subsystem requirements for the power system in those next generation, right? I will introduce later these additional options, but for the moment, just within name, at least one type of trace and a couple of connectors you want to connect. I will not save these changes, right? Because I have all my formal modules, all my link modules connected. So once I have all my modules, I will request the tool to load all the traces in memory. Let's say if I just want to deal with a couple of documents, then I can connect only the documents and the traceability links I want. But in this case, I'm gonna load all of them. Okay, now we got it. Well, let's move forward a little bit. Once the structure is created, of course, I can still see this structure, visual representation of the structure. So these are all my modules. You can see the doors icons, those ng icons in here, the Excel, the Word, and whatever. So for each of the links, you have the source and the target, how many work products or objects in the source, how many in the target, and how many traces you have among all these elements in here, and you have here all the traces, right? So I somehow close this, and I will focus on the content of this, right? So I will start with this one. I just click on it, and I show the traceability panel. From here, I can see all the items in the Word document. Let's say it was a project charter with 6 main goals. and all the stakeholder requirements in an Excel sheet, 61 elements. You can notice from here you have the number of traces between each of the elements in the source and the elements in the target. You can synchronize the views so that if you want to start by revising all your goals, then you must start by synchronizing with the source, and you can do something like this. So that every time you click on an element on the source, both the target and this list containing all the existing traces in this module will highlight the elements that are concerning the source, or you can just filter so that you can only see the elements connected to the selected element on the source. You can also request that the main element is for instance this one, the trace view, so that the information you see on the top panels are just in this case the couple of elements, source and target, that are connected. This is what you can see, or you can see all, but the tool will be selecting the couple that you want, right? Of course, you can from here quickly check and filter that there are no goals that are not deriving into stakeholder requirements. In this case, all my goals are somehow traced. I have no goal that was not traced, so I can be happy with regards to this. And from here, I can quickly identify that there is only one requirement, stakeholder requirement, which is not traced back to an upper level goal. So let me modify a little bit my document so that we can create a final goal and link this goal with this stakeholder requirement. So let me open the Word document. Okay, so this is again my document. I go to the goal section. Where are you? Goal section. And let me include a couple of changes in here. I will type something like goal number 7, goal 007. Generate commentation regarding the entire project. So this is my new goal, right? And I will take the opportunity to do a couple of changes here. So I will say goal number 1, develop a system involving hardware, firmware, and software. And another one here. You will notice that this change is of course changing, extending somehow the goal, so it is a meaningful change, but let me change this one a little bit. But this change is not that meaningful change, because I'm just changing the wording. Let's say the system developer should be able, no, I don't like should, so shall fight against others with the same physical space, right? So this change is, let's say, meaningless, just a wording. This is meaningful, and then this is a new goal, right? So I now save and close, and go back to Traceability Studio. Let me show you. First of all, I will refresh to catch all these changes. Now the requirement 7 is here. So sorry, goal 7 is there, and I have the firmware, and I have my change here. And let me show you how you can configure the way you want to deal with suspect links. There are links concerning this goal 1 and concerning goal 4. But let me show you how we are dealing with these changes. So I click on Edit Module Properties. From here I can see all the information I have included before, the source, the target, and I can also click here and say in which way I want to control changes. I can control changes just by the last modification date. In the case of Word document, the last modification is coming with the modification of the file. So if I change the document, all my goals will be understood as suspicious, and this is not what I want. then I can pick and say, okay, whatever change in the text of the goal is enough as to be considered as a suspicious change. Well, could be, but in this case, I will prefer the third option, which is a more semantic option, right? So for this, we are involving our semantic engine so that we will have a semantic comparison between both versions, and only for those requirements having a change in the formal representation of the requirement itself, then those will be considered as suspicious links, or will be considered as changes, and thus all the links involving somehow this element will be considered as suspicious, right? So once I have established the way I want to evaluate this, I can perform the evaluation. And here I can see the results. The result is 25 suspicious links. So how are these computed? The idea is that for this goal, that is now, by the way, including this red button here, button there saying that this is suspicious, right? So there are 25 links from having this goal number one as one of the ends, right? So this is why all the links involving this goal 001 are suspicious. The other changes are coming with goal 4, but the idea is that in goal 4 there are no meaningful changes. The change is just should be capable of fighting versus self-fight, right? So if I double-click one of my requirements, then I can see this formal representation. So this is the semantic graph that represents this text. So that if I double-click on one of the suspicious relationships, then I can see that this is the history of changes. The state is suspect, source and target. The issue is coming with the source, changes in the source, and then I can compare my two last versions. In here, in purple, you can see that there is a change in the date. Of course, every change is because of a change. In the case of a Word document, is coming because of a change in the time. There is a change in the text and a change in the formal representation, right? While if the change is a change in the text but not in the formal representation, then this will be purple. This will not. And since my mechanism in this time is just the formal representation, this is why requirement 4 is not considered as suspicious, right? So what I can do from here is I can just accept or reject, or I can go one by one. So you have all these different options here, so that you can accept all, or you can accept the selected suspicious and resolve this and change the state from suspicious back to normal or regular trace. I will accept all my changes, so now they are coming back to consistent. The color is back to white. The dot here has been removed, so everything goes back to normality. And of course, by the way, I can just select the one that was not traced here, and this is to generate documentation regarding the entire project development, and this one you can just double click and see the full text. The team shall elaborate a cost document including the resources utilized in the project development. So if you consider that this two has to be linking to or tracing two elements is as simple as selecting the source, selecting the target, establishing the type. In this particular case I have only one type, and I click on trace these two elements, and now the trace has been is created, right? So let's move forward and see the impact analysis. Let me change, this is the top of the derivation of my requirements, so let me change a little bit and pick, for instance, this one, which is level 2, right? So I saw the traceability panel. And then from here I can pick one of my requirements and see what is the impact analysis for this one. In here there are two ways to analyze this. One is in this visual representation. You can, of course, do kind of zoom in, zoom out. You can move the elements. You can double click to keep expanding this, or you can even show this information group by the container from the goals document in here to the stakeholder requirements to the system requirements, and you can keep extending. So this is one way to look at this impact analysis. The second one could be if you click on the work product and connection, and then you can pick your document, a stakeholder, and you can see all the information for this element, and you can see that this element derives from goal number 1 and derives into this number of elements, right? So next, what is next? Let me now show you how the tool can help and suggest new traces, right? So I have here traceability module connecting system requirements with the requirements for one of the subsystems. By the way, you can open here and you can check how many traces you have. Of course, there are 0 traces for this document. For other documents, you can see 61 traces. If you had some suspicious ones, the suspicions will be shown in a different color. And in here, you see that this document is full. I have 7 goals in the charter. I have 61, and all those elements are successfully linked, right? In this case, there are no traces, so let's try to come out with traces for this module. So these are the system requirements on the left. These are the the control subsystem on the right, right? And there are no traces yet. So let me show you some automatic mechanisms to elaborate and come out with different traces. So let me start by showing you more about semantics. So this was the configuration of my module. In this particular case, I have included three possible types of traces: allocation, derivation, and flow down. Right. So now in here in the semantic configuration, I can establish what is the configuration for the semantics search engine, right? So let me configure this as in order for 2 requirements to be considered as eligible for a trace. I need these 2 requirements to be fully equivalent. Equivalent means it doesn't mean, as I was presenting before, doesn't mean that the text is exactly the same. I'm just meaning that the formal representation is exactly the same. So it is 100% similar, right? So if I click on here, the idea is that sometimes you will have some requirements that you just have to flow down from one level to the other. Normally, this could be meaning that you are providing the requirements for a subsystem in advance, but and of course this is not a good practice, but some of the times it is meaning that it could be meaning that there are some external parameters like environmental variables that are the same for this whole system and the subsystem, so you just want to flow down into the subsystem specification. So let me, once I have established my configuration, I pick and say that I want to establish flow down traces, and I just execute the automatic semantic search engine, and the tool is identifying only one element. Let me now be directed by this element in here. So when I click here, then the tool is telling me that these 2 requirements, in fact the only difference is that in here I use should, in here I use shall, but the formal representation for this couple is absolutely exactly the same, and this is what it is said here. The semantic similarity is 100%. So this is why these 2 requirements, even if the text is not 100% the same, but the formal representation is the same, so these 2 requirements has been selected as possible traces, right? We have some other algorithms that you can use to find traces automatically. The second one, so we have these 2 algorithms here. I don't have time to describe this one, but let me show you another mechanism, which is what we call custom code task to identify new traces, right? In here, you will find, in your database, you will find a number, depending on the version of your database, you could find more or less elements in here. But one of the elements that is coming out of the box with every installation is the way to do allocation of physical properties, right? So the code is already, as I mentioned, this is a custom code, but the code is already included in every copy, at least in version 18.5 of our tool. So you just run this method. This method is including some parameters. So the first parameter is I want those requirements that have a common name. Which is coming from this semantic cluster, what I call other properties here. So properties like capacity, color, force, height, width, and so on and so forth, right? The weight and some others, right? So I pick just the cluster, and the tool will work with all the elements in here. And the second one, the second parameter is how the main system has to be related in both sides. So I will ask the tool to follow the PBS structure, right? So that for those elements that are linked in this PBS, directly linked in the PBS, if they both are speaking about the same property in left and right, then the tool will connect them. Let me show you the result so that you can understand the mechanism better. So the tool has identified two possible traces. So I have my two allocation requirements. What the tool is doing now is linking this one with this one. Let me show you why. So requirement on the left is speaking about the maximum power consumption of the temperature warrior. This is the name of the full system, the entire system shall be inferior to 4000 watts. To the right is the power consumption of this control system. So clearly this requirement represents an allocation of the power consumption of the father element, right? So I click OK, and for this one I can open, but this sorter you can see from there. So it's speaking about the maximum weight, 50 kilo for the full system, and 450 grams for the control system. So of course I can accept, from here I can accept or reject, or I can do it globally. But if I click on accept, then this trace switches from suggested to consistent. If I want to accept the other two, I just click here and I accept all the suggested traces, and then I got it, right? So my final mechanism will be typical derivation for those requirements that are not following or are not exactly the same as my first execution of this semantic approach. But now I will try to find some others, right? Of course, I can do it manually. There are plenty of missing traces here that you can find manually. But you can also use the semantic module again. But let me just reduce a little bit the level of similarity for those elements to be considered as possible traces. So I come here, I reduce a little bit this threshold from 100 to just 60. I click OK, and then I execute again the semantic retrieval algorithm, right? Now the tool is highlighting or selecting 4 possible options, right? So we're starting with this one. I can double click and see the couple, let's say. This one is telling me that the temperature warrior shall be able to control the minimum temperature threshold is not exceeded by shutting itself down. And the requirement in the control system is telling me when the minimum temperature threshold, so the same condition, in the control system, the child shall shut down, when it is exceeded, the control system, the children shall shut down. So the tool consider that these two requirements are not meaning exactly the same, but of course they have to be somehow connected. So this is why they are suggested. And the same for the rest. So you can see by means of this similarity distance how far are, from a semantic standpoint, how far are both the source and the target. But this is a very good way to identify elements that have something in common This can also be extended, for instance, to model elements. We have in here in this project, I have also a connection to a Capella model, so that you can identify which requirements are speaking about a particular state, or which requirements are describing a particular function, so that all these traces can be created automatically. Let me show you how. I now go and select my Capella document. So this is a module connecting system requirements with model requirements, model elements in Capella. So I open the traceability panel. In here you have your Capella module. Only some few elements in the module has been parsed. You have the type, diagrams or logical components, logical functions, initial states or other states, parts, logical function, logical components. So you have plenty of different elements here. So that the idea is that we have enabled another mechanism here just to allow traces between requirements and elements, just containing the name of the element within the requirement. So you have a number of different suggested traces here, so that you can eventually evaluate which ones are traces that you want to keep, or which ones are traces that you should be removing, right? But normally, of course, in here there is an element which is the environment, so every requirement which is dealing with the environment will be represented here, right? So let me go to the last part of this demo, which is the reporting. The reporting has been the mechanism that we have followed to do reporting is by creating templates in Microsoft Word. So this is one of my templates. So this is a typical document with some main page, some heading, some whatever in here, table of contents. So in here, what you can see is that I have, aside from the typical ribbon here on the top, we have a ribbon for the traceability report. So this is including a number of different elements that you can include in your documents, the documents that you consider them as a template, right? So for instance, if I scroll up, I can see that here I have something like traceability report, and in here you can see something special, something that is not a plain text in Word. This is an attribute that is coming from here. So I want in the front page, I want the name of my project. So if I want to do things like that, you just click and pick one of the elements you want to provide. So for instance, if I wanted to in here, if I wanted to add the name of the project and eventually the description as well, so you can do as simple as that. So you click on there, you click on description, and that's all. So you have now both name and description. You can also change, you can format as you wish. So you can pick one of these elements and say, okay, this is bold, and this one has to be aligned like this, right? So you can scroll down, and of course, whenever you wish, you can add elements like project name, project description, module map. This is the big picture that shows all the modules in here. You just go there and you can pick the map, or which is this one, or you can pick other charting with additional information, right? So the tricky point here is that whenever I want in my document, I can add something like what we call iterator. There are three types of iterators. If you report more than one project, you can iterate the information from the projects, project by project. If you just select to report one single project, then there is no need to involve this iterator. But if you want to show all the information for all the different traceability modules, then you have to add something like a module iterator. So this one is my module iterator here. So this section, this block, will be repeated over and over for each of the different modules that I have, right? So for each of the modules, I can do something like, okay, I want the name of the module, which is this one. I want to know for the source and for the target, what is the name of the server, the name of the document, and the number of items, right? So in order to do so, you have all this information in here. So name of the server, the project, the number of work product that has been related for both for the source and for the target. And then in this particular case, I want a table containing all the eventual traces in my document. So I have included now another iterator, which is the trace iterator, which is this one, right? So for each trace within this module, I will have one row in this table. And for each of the rows, I want just the type of relationship, the state of the relationship, the source item, the ID, the code, the text of the item, and the same for the target. So this is my template. So only 11 pages and only one main page, which is this one. But this will be populated with all the information in the traceability modules. So I save this. I save the changes. Yes, why not? And then in here, I just go and pick a report. For specific modules or for a full project. So I want to report a project. This one, you can pick more than one if you wish, as I said before, but I just stick to this one. There are three different reports. One is a custom report. This is your own code to do whatever you wish, not only in terms of following a Word template, but you can do exactly what you wish in here. This is the Word template, and this is just to export a picture with the module map, right? Let me pick Word. Then in here, normally you will have at least one, which is the one that is coming out of the box. But in my case, I will pick another one. If you want to pick another one for the first time, you just browse and pick your file, right? And this is the only thing you have to do to come out with more item entries in here. So I pick not the out of the box, I pick the one I have just modified. I want all the traces, I don't want to apply any filter at all. And then the final step of the wizard is just to confirm that all these modules will be reported, right? So now I click accept. It can take some seconds, so I stop for a second. And now we got the report. The report is in here, so this is the same, looks like the same, but you can notice that all the fields has been replaced. Now this is the name of my project, temperature war. In here I have again the name, the description, that was empty in this case. So if I scroll down, by the way, I can take my table of contents, I can update the table of contents. Now I have all my 11 modules listed in here, right, in the different sections. So again, the name, the description, the map. Now you can, of course, you can take this page, you can rotate, if needed, you can do whatever you wish with it, so that you can see it a little bit bigger. And in here, remember my one single page has now my report is having 43 pages. So this section was repeated for each of the modules with the name of the module, goals in the project charter are traced down to stakeholder requirements in an Excel sheet, the server, the number of items in the Word document, the number of items in the Excel sheet, and then all the individual traces one by one. This is what I selected. So I have all the traces with the ID and the text of the requirement on it. And then the same for all the documents that are connected. So these are now system requirements threatened by risks. And so you have all the requirements and the risks that are relating to them. Right? So this was my report and this was my demo. Thank you very much. See you soon.